was a power in story I knew so deeply by that point that I knew I had to give my students a story. And so I knew we had to tell our stories. And as we navigated the issues of bullying and racism and homophobia and transphobia and the power differentials between adults and children, and knowing that hope always comes from the young, I asked my students to write their stories. I asked my students to share their stories with as many people as they could, and I asked their permission to tell their stories. And so we created the Secret Kindness Agents movement. We were going to go around and we were going to do secret acts of kindness anonymously with agent names so no one would know who we were, because if they knew who we were, they could thank us. And we didn't want thank yous because then it's not really kindness. And the students gained power because not only were they telling their stories, they were taking control of their stories because they realized that you don't need to be rich or powerful or famous or popular to make somebody's day better. Not only that, to make your own day better. And it didn't cure the systemic ills that were happening, but it did make us feel a little bit better. I'm gonna skip forward at this point because y'all can see the TED Talk. But I do want to tell you a little bit about later on the students the secret kindness agents who got addicted to their kindness moves. And they developed what I came to call their signature moves. So they started to do acts of kindness that were not part of our assignments that we were asked to do, that we asked each other to do. They started to do extra things. There was a student who, her name is Ayeli, Agent ACAT, who was picking up litter outside the school for her first assignment, and she's one of those students who is terrified of people looking at her, just terrified of being noticed. English is her fourth language, she's from Togo, she's very concerned about her accent, and her worst nightmare was that people would notice her. And so she's picking up trash outside the school, and the office secretary comes upstairs and asks me to come downstairs because there's something wrong with one of my children. And so these are my children, my students. And so I go downstairs, and Ayeli is down there, and she's picking up litter outside the school, and she's crying. Not quietly. She's wailing like, "Ah! Ah!" And I was like, Ayeli, did somebody die? Channeling professional. And she goes, no, they're looking at me. See, they're looking at me. I said, yeah, because you're screaming. And she asked me to pick up the trash with her. And by the end of the semester, this child was so confident in her trash picking up that she was starting to lecture other folks on it. There was a man who was walking down Park Drive and dropped a whole bag of litter. And she walked up to him and she said, you, I saw what you did. Pick it up, shame on you. I came from Africa to clean up your country. How dare you come with me 20 minutes community service. And this poor man wept and picked up litter with her for 20 minutes. Another student was the only openly gay student in the entire district. This boy had attempted suicide 14 times. He had been bullied by administration, he'd been bullied by teachers, he'd been bullied by students, he'd been bullied by his family, and his mother had died suddenly and she was the only welcoming person in his life, but he decided he was gonna look fabulous every day. He would wear skinny jeans and 6-inch platform heels and My Boyfriend is Fabulous t-shirt and a feather boa. And he was a secret kindness agent, Agent Scrappy-Doo. And he came to me one day and he said, listen, this is what I've been doing. I got a job at Joe Tess and I saved up and I bought a lawnmower. And after we close the restaurant, after I'm done washing dishes at night, I put the lawnmower in my father's truck and I'm mowing people's lawns under cover of night in my feather boa and my 6-inch heels. And I said, Lance, you could die in so many ways. Your boa could get stuck in the motor and strangle you to death. You could fall and get run over by your machine. Also, this is Nebraska. If somebody hears a noise at 3 in the morning in their front yard in the dark with a large machine, they're gonna shoot you. He said, how about we compromise on a wedge? I said, we could do that. And how about instead of the boa, your Hot Topic fingerless gloves? And maybe do this in the daytime, you know, and ask the permission. And if they say no, you take that gracefully. One more story. Agent Blaze, this poor child, he came up to me one day and he said, Mama Beast, that's what they called me. I have a problem, I keep getting slapped. I said, okay, who's slapping you, Ernie? He said, well, strangers. How many times a day? Well, about 5-6 times a day, people are slapping me. I said, Ernie, what are you doing right before they're slapping you? And he said, well, I'm hugging them. And I said, why are you hugging the strangers, Ernie? And he said, because they said, listen, Ernie, sometimes people have what we call resting sad face. So you have to ask them, hey, are you sad? And if they say yes, then you ask them, would you like a hug? And if they say no, you maybe offer a fist bump instead. He said, can we practice? And we did. And he came back a week later and he said, I haven't been slapped in a week. This consent thing is genius. And I said, yes, tell all your friends, Ernie. But all my students discovered that they had power within themselves, something that I wish we told young people more often. Because there is a power in story. We all need to learn how to tell our stories. Because out there's somebody just like you waiting to hear it. There's somebody just like you to say, because of them, I can't. Because you can't be what you can't see. And we need to fill the voids where there is absence. We need to think about which stories are missing in our lives, in our platforms, in our classrooms, in our media. Where are those stories? We need to find them, and we need to uplift them.